Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bill and Ray Show. I'm out in the torch shop making another marble, and today I'm going to do a variant of chaos fume pattern that I've done in the past. So I've got some prep laid out. I'm going to jump into our main rod to work with and build up some chaos. So thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm starting off with the raw cut ends here, so I've got to clean this up and condense back at an initial gather. Hoping everybody's doing good out there. A little distracted this morning, lots going on in our little world. We've had some different guests moving in and out of our little vacation rental next door here, and got some people showing up today for a couple nights. Trying to keep all the balls in the air, juggling all kinds of activities around here. Trying to gear up towards we've got our county fair coming up at the end of the month. Actually, just in a couple weeks. It's the last week of the month. So I've been doing a little inventory for that. Last couple days I've been playing around doing some of my little starburst kind of pendants. And I used to sell a ton of those things at Saturday Market in Missoula many years ago. It's the one YouTube video that truly went viral. It's been up for 12 years or more now, but when we had our little store in Corvallis, people were always coming in asking how we made these pendants. I got kind of tired of explaining it over and over again, so I thought I'm going to make a little video. It's going to show the process of making them. I want a little short clip. I'm going to put it on a display in the next to where the pendants were in our shop, and then if they ask questions, they just watch the video. It's looping. And the original video, when I went to edit it on a Sunday, and I was up in the office, and Ray was in at her desk, the other computer, and she had the box set AC/DC, and she was running through these songs, and I'm editing this video, and one of these songs that just like hit me. It's like, man, that would be just perfect to put in this video. So the original video went up with compilation of three AC/DC songs. That was really awesome. I was really pretty excited. Now I go back and look at that video. It's got plenty of flaws to it. The focus isn't the greatest, the lighting isn't the greatest, positioning isn't the greatest, but that was fun. It was really fun to see that video take off, because we just played it in the store for a long time before it ever even got on YouTube, I think. But it went up on my original YouTube channel, Bill Grout, and you're watching this on the Bill and Ray Show YouTube channel. So I wish that video was monetized for me right now, but yeah, I think it still gets quite a few views. Okay, we got a bit of a gather going here. I think that's probably enough. This is always hard to gauge the size to start out with. It's going to determine a lot of things. But I wanted just a round gather, and then we're going to build up a bit of structure. I pulled out some clear into a pretty thick stringer, so I'm going to try doing that. Let's see, I'm going to be touching down and cutting off these pieces. So oftentimes in the past I've done a cage. I was playing around with this. I was trying to do pendants the other day. It didn't turn out for various reasons. So I thought, well, I'm going to try this concept on a marble and see what happens. So this right now, I've got a little bit of that was some disco sparkle that I watered down with clear. I'll use a little bit of that in here. Just gonna do a couple random pieces of this disco sparkle. So building up my crazy Sputnik satellite here. Okay, well, so add a few more here. Oops, pulled off the connection point here. Now do one more. With some crazy sparkle. Okay, well, I think that's all the craziness I can do right now. So kind of warm things up just a little bit. Okay, we're going to start out with some silver fuming. Let's see here. Let's go with this. And then we're going to do some gold. Because this is such a big open pattern, I want to use a little bit bigger flame than I usually use for gold and put it out here farther out. Kind of lost my gold once submerged, but can't mess with that too much right now. So the next phase is melting these crazies in and burning out some of the fume. And we're going to start getting some of these guys tangled up with each other. Okay. Now, the idea is to try and melt this in without trapping too much air. Gonna wind up probably with some bubbles in here, but we'll see. In this process, a lot of fume will be burnt out. But a lot of it's already trapped. So start off kind of gentle with this process, and then just kind of let that heat build some intensity, get the heat base built up into the core. Kind of got this at a bit of a slope to draw it out. And hopefully give some opportunity for the air to escape. And then change directions. We're going to let this kind of fall back on itself. So at this point there's kind of two directions you could go. You could proceed with this directly to a cone shape. That will give all this effect basically around the inner wall of the marble, and the core will be fairly clear. You'll be able to see down to the bottom. But today I'm in mind to do a little different. So we've done sort of a compressive function here. And we're going to go for compression number 2. So we're going to flatten this out to a disc and then do kind of our compression concept. This is the basis of the little pendants I was talking about. I have some pictures of that somewhere in the video here showing some of the work I've been doing. So this phase can take a while, especially with a big honkin' instead of glass like this. So this is the basic concept of heating the rim, having it at an angle, letting it fall down. So this in a Vortex marble is going to wind up being kind of a dome of craziness, blooming up into the core, hopefully. Do some successive presses there to accomplish this 3D folding effect. Change our angle to try and get that center core to collapse into itself. So this is one of these phases where there's just so many variables going on. How much you heat, how much you let it pull out, how much you press, how many times you press. There's just a ton of variables happening here. So the density of this structure, you may or may not see down into the, I talk about this a lot of times when you have fume effects in particular, when you have very dense fume effects, it'll obscure the view down into the core of the marble. But sometimes you get a really nice effect where you can still see down into it. There's a whole lot of layers of these reflective fume layers. They'll all be quite magical. And I refer to this as a chaos structure, because especially compare this to the pendants that I do, where it's a pretty precise pattern and a precise process to expand those out. And what often is done as a floral pattern, but in the case of the pendants that I've been doing, it's a little different. I call it a starburst pattern. So now we're getting quite a ways there toward this dome of fumingness. So we've got a lot of, well, not a lot, some stuff that's all the way up on the sides. That's okay. We've got to coax this to a cone shape now. I'm trying to focus a little bit more just on this very end. And let it kind of draw down to a tapered end. Okay, we're getting there. think we got it. So even at this stage, I can't really tell how dense that's going to be. And then some of that didn't get into the core, and it's kind of wrapping up around the sides. So we get kind of the combination of the core that's filled in and the sides that are got some stuff going on. So we'll pull this end out. Okay, that's looking cool. Now, I'm going to do some background frit. We're going to do some turbo amethyst. Basically something really dark. This can practically look black. And this will be kind of my two-tone thing that I do on the inside a lot of times. So I'll do kind of an open structure of some frit lattice and then back it with a color, solid color. Okay, looking good. And with this frit, we want it to just kind of bead up and create this, like I say, an open lattice. We don't need to marver this in until it's pretty well settled in on its own. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Let that cool down just a minute. Oops. Don't do that. It's okay. You're okay. Alright, now I've got some blue spruce pulled out. So you can get this put down. Not that my bench is all that clean, but that's one reason to have a relatively clean surface underneath your torch. So if you do drop things when they hit the deck, they don't pick up a whole lot of nastiness. Although if it's dropping down onto a clear face, it's going to pick up anything it picks up is going to be nasty, so then you have to go and skim that out. But when you have some kind of debris on your color face, you have to just kind of burn it in and go with it. It just becomes part of the piece. Alrighty, I got another piece here fortunately. Let me finish this color layer out. Okay, come back in and try and fill in any gaps. Oh, the stringer is crazy shape. Get in there. And we really squish this in. Alrighty. Okay, I'm going to proceed with some silver. I think there's some on here. There it is. Alright, yeah. Fill-in phase. How many of you fast forward through this part? Then you'll miss my story time. So I don't have a lot of story time in mine, but we have had, as I mentioned, some guests who were staying. We had some folks, a family of 4, here for 5 nights recently, and they got out in the hot tub the other evening, and we've had some just beautiful sunset, crazy skies, thunderstorms coming through, and then we've had this really a phenomena I just don't really remember seeing here. We've had this double rainbow, like after or at sunset or a little after sunset, and just this gorgeous rainbow, and then all these other wild neon colors in the sky from the sunset, and then lightning activity and winds kicking up, and it was, of course, very warm. So they had a memorable time. I believe they hopefully they appreciate that was a memorable time. I had looked out at the sky one time. I thought, I don't know when I've ever seen such a beautiful, dramatic sky since I've been living here for 33 years or whatever. It was just magical. And then we've had this repeated over and over again, this double rainbow at sunset, very similar just got this fiery quality to it. Incredible. And speaking of fires, and we've had a lot of fire activity nearby, so we've had the helicopters flying overhead day after day. But they got a handle on it. It blew up one afternoon, and I thought, uh-oh, that's it. It's going to turn into a major fire. But they supposedly kept it down to like 20-25 acres or something. Looking up at it, it seemed like it covered a lot more territory than that, but it was just over the ridge. We couldn't directly see it, but we could watch the water drops. And the big Chinook helicopter and a couple other smaller helicopters. But they go back to the airport to refuel because it's pretty close in Hamilton Airport. So these guys are flying just right overhead. So it's been entertaining around here, and then last night we had a humdinger thunderstorm. We dropped 1.25 inches of precipitation, and half hail, half rain. Came down for a half an hour or so, just really intense, crazy wind. So we're looking forward to doing our county fair coming up, and do not need that kind of thunderstorm activity when we're down there at the fairgrounds. That's always been an issue so far. Knock on wood, we've survived the thunderstorms that have rolled through, and we've managed to keep our tents and our displays intact. Everybody's always so worried about our product because it's glass. The glass is going to break. Big storm. That's not really a thing. For one, we take stuff down and put it in bins under the table if the weather looks to be threatening all that much. And then most of our stuff, I mean, we're set up on the lawn, so most of our stuff is pretty durable. Borosilicate glass mostly, and if it hits the ground on grass, that's certainly not going to hurt it. So it's kind of funny, everybody worries about the inventory. I worry about our tent. I don't want our tent to blow down. That's literally a showstopper. I have one spare tent, but we set up a double booth, 10 by 10, two 10 by 10 tents. And we tie them together, and they're staked down at the feet, and they're staked down at the corners to another anchor, and then we put dog screws, tie downs on the interior, and rope to the frame when things get crazy. And we got quite a few heavy buffet table things that I don't know how much they weigh. They weigh enough. They're hard to move around and stuff. So somehow we've survived some pretty wicked storms that have taken a lot of other people out. So, but it just seems like the weather. As I get older, I'm less tolerant of crazy weather, I guess. And I'd prefer to hunker down and not be outside in the elements. So it's disturbing when living in Montana, we hear stories from Other places, usually more on the eastern side of Montana, it's very different in different places, and their weather can be way more extreme. We're kind of in a sheltered zone. So we tend not to get big hail or hurricane force winds or tornadoes. But that doesn't mean it can't happen. Our folks over in Bozeman, they've had hail a couple of times in more or less recent history that they had hail damage enough to where they had the roof replaced and siding replaced and things like that. It's gotten pretty serious. But we don't. Well, we did have our big shop. We can pull one car into there. But the last time I tried doing that in a hurry, I actually put a scrape in our car trying to get it in there in a hurry, and so that was kind of a fail. One of those oopsie moments. Okay, well that stick was a little short, kind of left a little bit of a funky lay down to clear here. See what happens when we melt this in. Let's get this done. Well, we're trying to keep it kind of chill here while we're doing some glass work. Right now the weather's very pleasant, not too hot, there's no wind, there's no rain, no thunderstorms. And oddly enough, after all these thunderstorms, we haven't had a power outage. I thought about that yesterday. A short outage, the kiln will come back on in the state that it left at, so it'll continue on with its progress wherever it was in the annealing cycle. And if it's just a few minutes, that's no big deal. It's not going to change temperatures that rapidly and cause any problem for the glass. But I thought about that. I thought, oh man, it always sucks if you got a bunch of glass in the kiln and the power goes out. And it generally, I mean, the glass is going to be okay. It just is going to have to go through another annealing cycle. No, we should say it should go through another annealing cycle. It depends on where it's at. If it's really in the later stage of its cooling down, it's not going to matter if it cools down a little faster, as long as it's gotten down below the strain point, which for borosilicate glass is somewhere around 960 degrees Fahrenheit. Whatever happens below that temperature is not a result of structural strain. It's going to be just thermal shock kinds of strain. I think this melted out okay. Okay. Settle down time. Got a few bubbles in there on that base, but now it's buried inside the marble. It's being covered over by a pattern. It's not the greatest example of fine glasswork, but it's not really important. And those of you that say it's really important, it's like, well, then don't buy any of my stuff, I guess. Okay, laying down the first line here is Silver Strike 5. So right along that edge. And jump over, give room for some other colors. I'm kind of using some stringers that I had on hand, and normally if I'm pulling these out, I make them a little longer. And I thought, oh, that's long enough. Ouch. It's really hot when it gets that close to the end. Okay, then we got Unobtanium. Rolling, rolling, rolling. And the last one is double amber purple. Alrighty, I made it. There's a couple little kind of bubbly points from this Unobtanium. Just kind of disrupt some of that stuff. Should be okay. Now I gotta juggle my glass and grab a sip of coffee. I guess I got my kitty cat mug once again. Instead of our aspenhot glass mugs. But we do sell all our graphics designs. So link below the video. T-shirts and coffee mugs or water bottles. Some beautiful artwork. So we appreciate your support. If you just give a like, it makes a big difference. Probably hear that a lot on YouTube, but a little channel like ours is still trying to gain traction, hoping for something to take off. But in the meantime, I'm enjoying doing these videos, enjoying hanging out, having an audience, sharing some crazy ideas. Some work, some don't. Well, I should say some work better than others. Now this phase, I'm trying to burn off this haze on there, and it's obstinate. Oh, look at that. That camera view is just blown out. It's so hot. And it's still not burning up the haze. Come on, you guys. Up all our bonus oxygen in our surge tank. So another way to do this operation is with this small flame. It's kind of a funny process. You want to let that flame sit on the glass you're trying to chase the haze off of, but you have to keep rotating too, so you have to just keep going around and around. Trying to get a little bit here and there. Oh, it's being really stubborn. It's doing it. I don't know how well you can pick this up on the camera. I could get a view of what I'm seeing. I have to really dial in the exposure and focus in right at the torch, hitting the glass. Even this camera, it's just so hot, it's just getting kind of blown out. And I don't have, on this camera, I don't have any nifty little remote control or any way to switch that exposure on the fly. My other old video camera, actually the one that I used in the pendant video that went viral, has one of the things that I was able to do. It has a remote control and I can adjust the exposure, and I was able to get some close-up shots with the exposure dialed in to see what was really happening. So in this view, the areas that have got that haze burned out appear kind of like the dark bands. They're actually transparent, so you're just seeing the underlying color layer that's darker. That's basically all of it. Go back to red flame. Reheat everybody. Okay, we still got to do our raking operation. There you go. It stops wanting to droop. I want it to droop while I'm doing this part. Getting some tearing action going on here, so it's going to take a bit of rework. Wow, this is really messy. Okay, well, something about all that I didn't like. Yep, the backside's just going to be a little more psychedelic than usual. Okay, well, let's see here. Sometimes you wind up with a collection of errors. Comedy of errors. It's all good. So these places I push around with, they won't be the crisp lines that you want to see in raking. It'll be kind of smushed up. That's the way the cookie crumbles. Okay. Well, it's all blended together now. Okay, I'm going to rotate a moment. We're getting there. So this next phase, I've got my hands full, so this torch has to be adjusted where I want it. And now we can see we got tons of fume out here. This is all that kind of contaminated, dirty glass that needs to be ripped off. So we'll start off with just burning off the fuming. That will clean up a certain amount of the problematic clear glass. So the two wiggly points, one is the punty attachment is a little warm, so it's not completely stable. And then of course wherever the cold rod is getting melted in is moving around. And then trying to keep the rotations the same, even though the punty rod is small and the feed rod is large. Trying not to introduce twisting action. Okay, just about there. When you get down to a small connection point, then you can heat it up, pull it just a little bit and stop, and then cut through that last bit. Ooh, this arm needs a rest. A lot of rotations there. Get shards thrown over at my keyboard. Okay, that first run is the most aggressive, trying to really gouge out some of that affected glass. And then this area, you saw that I bumped up the propane a little bit, just plain clear oil glass, especially once it's hot. It can do pretty good in a more reducing kind of flame. It's quite a bit of propane. Okay, then kind of go back and check for shows up in the flame. Okay. You have to be good at multitasking to do glass work. I'm not very good at multitasking, but in terms of just running things with one hand and doing something with the other hand, I can't literally multitask very well and do numerous things at once. Give this some rotation and pull that main diameter in and push it out. And things get a little off filter, so we run it in the pill barber. Can't see that much there. Kind of bring that back to a good pill shape. Okay, let's give it a little run in the mold here. And sometimes at this point we think, well, maybe we got a little bit more glass than we need up here. Now's the time to reduce it a little bit. Made me blink there. I just about lost my grip on it. Okay, this phase, that's close enough. Chaos contained. Okay, flame cut this puntee off. So that first puntee is a pretty solid attachment, and because it goes through a lot of tug-of-war, I don't want to screw around with a wimpy puntee attachment there. This phase, we really want to build the heat base all the way into the core ways. There's a lot of transformation here. The glass doesn't move unless it's hot. Try giving it some rotation, see if we can get it to move. Give it some angle so it falls back down towards the circumference and shortens up. Okay, let's try the mold. That actually worked pretty good. Sometimes I kind of struggle at this step. Keep that surface. Give it another run of the mold. Give it a good spin. Let that core kind of settle for a minute. Come back and do another heat cycle. And get to that nice glossy melt heat and get out of it. So sometimes you're trying to heat the base heat all the way in to the core, or as much as you can, to get all kinds of things to move all at once. And sometimes you're trying to just get the surface to move a little bit. And then when you get things pretty well settled on shape and diameter, then you just want to flame polish. So you don't really need heat to soak in very much. So now that you got so much of this marble basically established, it's basically done on this back half. I'm going to let it cool down enough so the interior is not glowing too much. You don't want to upset the core shape now. So we're going to switch over. This will be hopefully our last plenty. So we want a nice bullet end. Keep the surface of the glass up till it's glowing. Keep the tip of the punty up. Tag the two together and give it a little tug of war. Now, generally your punties won't be in perfect axial alignment, so you focus on the one you just did and how it relates to the back side. Then you get the other one hot where it starts moving on its own. Cut it off. I need to come in and get rid of that punchy entirely. So we want to make sure we don't have any remnants. There's always a little pool of glass in here that's different. And make sure you get rid of that. Now we don't want to get too aggressive because we need that glass to fill out our marble. Sometimes if you feel like you're really not on center, you can flash a little heat over onto that punchy until it's kind of moving a little bit. Try and get it to center up. Okay, get some heat going on that clear, and we're going to drop down on the marble mold and see if we can fill up that front all the way to the end. So I'm looking at the edge of the marble mold. It doesn't quite fill it all the way out to the front face. So we got to give a little drop to it. Unfortunately, I see one more little boo-boo I'm going to have to work with. There's a bubble towards the rim. It's always unfortunate to chase boo-boos at this point because they're hard to heal up. Right there. So we crack a hole in it. This is the problem, is you wind up having to apply a lot of heat to get that to heal up. And then it's going to mess with your contours. So, now we got a little bit more work to do. Now you've introduced all kinds of wrinkles. So kind of back to some basic shaping on that circumference. Another bubble has decided to surface. Okay, well, just gotta keep at it. Alright, this is a little setback. Oh well. That's why little surface bubbles, they don't really present a problem. It's best to just leave them alone. But at least we're not going to let me do that. So we just got to run through a few heat cycles and marble marvering. We're going to wind up kind of leaving a couple little dimples here probably. Okay, well that's pretty good. Then we get into the mode where just heat and rotate, cycle it a couple times. That's going to be good. Because every time you go back into the marble mold, you're introducing new problems. At some point, you just have to accept over there. Just going to have to give it some heat and rotation treatment. Well, the two spots healed up pretty well. I don't think there's too much of a noticeable. We watched the reflections and I think that got cleaned up pretty well. This is kind of those steps where, you know, if you just rush through it, get it done, you might not be super happy with it. So it's better to just take another couple minutes, fiddle around with it if you have to, and then you can be a little happier with the outcome. So, okay, I think we're good now. Well, thanks to anyone who's been hanging in there watching these videos. If you're here now, give us a thumbs up. Give us a subscription if you haven't. We appreciate any comments. Whatever you want to comment. We'd love to hear some kind of feedback. You don't get very many comments on these videos. It's nice to get a little hi or something out of somebody. But, you know, I made it through all the steps that I wanted to do, and, yeah. Another example of chaos. In a chaotic world, this is, you know, this is on point. And that backside, we're getting some color blooming out of there. That's good. After all that fussing around, that tends to kind of mess up the color sometimes. But we're looking good. I'm going to use a little wet squeezer action here to cool that country mark. Knock it free. And then we're just going to flame this little spot. Kind of move it around and watch the reflection. Looking good. Alright. Well, we held it, hung in there and got it done. Still a long process. There's no getting around it. Crazy marble ready for the kiln. Thanks so much for watching these videos. The kiln she goes. Right after this, you see a little shot of the finished finished marble. Video of the finished marble. How about that? Till next time, we hope you take care of yourself, take care of those around you, be kind, and we will see you on another adventure, another day. Check it out. Take care.